What's up, guys? We got a lot to cover in this video. I know the question on everyone's mind is, when is the market going to stop selling? Trump is just rattling off tweets every single day, flip-flopping his stance. Maybe they have a trade deal with Japan. Maybe trade talks are going well, then people are backing out. China might invade Taiwan. The Pope just died. Ukraine and Russia might strike a peace deal. Going to cover as much as I can here with the price action, give you guys an outlook for everything that's going on in the markets this week. I also am very thankful for your support. We hit 500 subscribers, so I did buy a mechanical keyboard. This is a Keychron Q5 Pro Series. I actually got one for myself, but whoever wins the randomized drawing that I'll be hosting in my Discord. So if you want to enter, one entry, one winner, and they'll win a brand new mechanical keyboard. It's actually really nice. I like it better than my last one. So let's just hop right into it, guys. So obviously it's a big earnings week. We got tech earnings coming up. You know, Donald Trump's going crazy on Twitter every day. The market seems to not really care anymore if he says trade talks are going well. At this point, we just need to see something actually materialize with any country, whether that's Japan, Italy, Europe, China. Hopefully there's a pause there at some point. Right now, the market is very much a headline-driven market, so it's hard to play setups on the chart, looking at technicals. And then, of course, now you have all the earnings. And we got Tesla coming after the close. That's a big one for tomorrow. There's a few others here like Verizon, Aerospace, Lockheed Martin, Boeing on Wednesday morning, Texas Instruments. The other big one, obviously, this week is Alphabet, Thursday after the close. So expect some more volatility there. Obviously, Alphabet, Google just got hit with some antitrust lawsuits, so we'll see what happens there. But I do expect, at least for Q1, earnings to be pretty good for Google. Tesla, probably not so much. The delivery numbers have been failing, so the market's going to really be looking for robotics, Optimus. Can Elon pull off the impossible? Any maybe better advancements with fully self-driving technology? But really everyone's looking for Optimus because that's going to change the landscape for not only tech, but especially Tesla if they're able to pull that off. So that's it for this week on earnings. And then as far as data goes, there's not much for this week. We do have two Fed speakers talking tomorrow. That's on Tuesday, the 22nd. So we'll get some more information from them. Then we have PMI on Wednesday. That's at 9:45 a.m. So we'll see how that comes in. If it's bullish, if it's over what is forecasted. You know, at this point, the market's really kind of looking at what are the recession odds, but also will the Fed lower rates. Right now, the Fed is pricing in to cut 25 basis points in June. And obviously, Trump wants that to happen sooner. So we'll see what happens in May. That's the most recent or upcoming FOMC meeting is going to be the second week of May on Wednesday. I think that's going to be the 7th. And then on Thursday, we do have durable goods as well as initial jobless claims and home sales. And as you can see, overall, the market, I'm filtering by market cap here on this tracker. And you can see all the Mag 7 stocks here at the top are trading at the lower end of their 52-week range, except for Netflix, which that's Walmart. Where's Netflix? Netflix is down here, which is actually up 14% over the last 30 days. And they just reported earnings last Thursday and they crushed it. Obviously, this company is not going to be as directly impacted by tariffs. And then, of course, like Palantir, defense, that those types of companies often do pretty well when there's not only a trade war, but just war in general with Russia. Then there's some developments with Iran and Israel. So there's still a lot going on there. And then, of course, staying strong here is GameStop. Obviously, they've decided to potentially start buying Bitcoin, and Ryan Cohen and a few other executives have been buying up shares at GameStop. And so those are showing up, and a lot of people are starting to participate and take notice. But let's just hop right into the charts. I can give you an idea of what's going on in the market. Obviously, SPY today, it did have this lower trend line. This is from the Friday lows. Or sorry, this is from, Monday, April 7th. We had this low put in right around, what was the low here? Around 480 on SPY. Then we came back to retested that level there. We're right at 489. And then, of course, this was the 90-day pause move. And then we had somewhat of a profit-taking event, and then we bounced, and we formed this wedge. But now we've ultimately broke this lower, which is bearish. Bears are in control right now. We're still waiting to see something come out with a trade deal. Obviously, China is still starting to find workarounds with their trade through Canada and other countries. Xi Jinping has been visiting a lot of the Southeast Asia countries, really just trying to stop the bleeding, because obviously they export a lot of their goods. I think around 15% goes to the USA, because we are a consumer-driven economy, and because of that, they're trying to stop the bleeding as much as they can. But ultimately, I do think that there will be a deal that gets put in place, because right now Trump is playing hardball, but at least in the past, he usually comes around. He probably wants to strike some sort of deal with China, but this could take months, even like over a year, to actually play out. Really what I'm looking for is if they will actually start to negotiate and then put a pause on these ridiculously high tariffs, and then the market would have a stronger rally from there. But really, if they can just secure any deal with like Japan, some European country, those would all be solid as well for a move higher. But you can see we had this overnight gap down on SPY, and this is going to be a bear line of defense. So although there was a big sell-off today and we started to have this profit-taking, short covering rally into close, bears are still in control. We might come back up and retest this level on the breakdown, right? So you had a break here. We might come back, maybe retest this level and then head back south. But like I said, it's really difficult to play because VIX is also really high. So if you're buying options contracts, you are paying a premium. And even if SPY starts to go higher, VIX will go down, and that will also impact the contract that you own, right? So you're paying a high price, and then as price moves higher, a portion of that contract is going down, as VIX would drop as well if the market goes up. So keep that in mind. Right now, I'm kind of just sitting on the sidelines and waiting for things to play out. We're still in this bearish structure. So bulls are going to have to come up here and fill this gap. Obviously, we're going to need some sort of headline in the markets for things to actually start to actually push higher, because for right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. Tariffs are really bad for the Mag 7. Obviously, NVIDIA has been getting hit quite a bit. It actually came back down to a low volume node between 96 to 101. So it's trying to hold these levels, but it's kind of in this no man's land right now. I'm just trying to wait and see how things play out. And then once we have some clarity on trade deals and progress there, then we can expect to start actually playing breakouts of different trend lines or breakdowns. It's just going to be much easier to trade. Right now, it's very much like a scalper's market. Even if you look at the futures, we actually had the gap down as well, and it never filled that, which is pretty unusual for futures because futures trade almost 24/7. And so this move from Thursday to Sunday's open never actually got filled. So we're starting to have like this counter trend here. Maybe we'll come back up, but this might just continue lower over time in a downtrend. So we really need to see something happen with Trump and a trade deal actually materialize, or maybe the Fed kind of steps in, maybe say that they're going to lower some rates, but I doubt that's going to happen. It seems like Jerome Powell is going to remain firm. So there's still a lot of uncertainty there, and we're going to need to see something out of somewhat of a trade deal. Another thing that's really exciting right now is Bitcoin. So if you're following along, gold has been going a lot higher. Gold has just been on an absolute tear. It's making highs after highs. It broke 3,000 and it's just been pushing up and to the right. This is partially driven by the fact that China is buying a lot of gold. They're trying to stimulate their economy as much as possible because they do have some issues with deflation. And so they're stimulating, they're trying to prop up their stock market. They're trying to do whatever they can to devalue the yuan as this trade war just rages on. And gold has been making new highs. And now Bitcoin is starting to break out of this downtrend. So you can see that it had this pretty clean trend line. It's finally broke above this. It's been consolidating for a period of time. Bitcoin is also somewhat of like an inflation hedge, but also an uncertainty. Like gold usually goes up before like a recession, or if there's a lot of fear in the market, people flock to gold because they think it's stronger than, just the US dollar. And now Bitcoin is starting to make that move higher as the dollar has lost about 10 or 11% since Trump has taken office with all the things going on with trade. So still a lot of uncertainty. I do see, at least a retest on SPY, but ultimately we still are in a downtrend. We are going to need to see us invalidate this breakdown and push higher for the bulls to take control. That would be a close above this 526 level. If we can fill this gap and then close above that, that would be really good and constructive for a move higher. And then obviously we got 537 and then 550. That's really this key level because there's this additional bear gap that formed when the actual trade tariffs were originally announced. And that's going to be really the biggest line of defense for the bears. If we can ever break above that, then we're probably going to continue to push higher and higher, probably over 600 or even make new all-time highs if we can fill this gap and close above it. But at least originally we'll probably reject here. So yeah, not much to talk about this week. Obviously, like you can get hooked both ways depending on, if you're going short, there could be a positive headline and then you get blown out shorting, or you could go long and then we're kind of just bleeding out until something actually materializes. So I'm just being patient, waiting for things to stabilize or for us to crash. If we crash much lower, then I'll probably be looking to play some support levels, because if the market does topple over, most likely the Fed or Trump is their hand's going to be forced. And then there'll be something that comes in the headlines, or the Fed makes a move, and then we're going to have a strong bounce after that. So really just kind of waiting to see how this plays out in either direction and then going from there. But hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We'll be doing more giveaways in the future. Join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.